Thank you so much. I'm sure, yeah, thank you. You've all been to the roads around the Bangalore. I'm sure you had an amazing bumpy experience around, and more so when you are driving around in the rain, it's much more an enjoyable, jolly ride around the bumpy, amazing roads that we have around the world, right? So what's PotHoleRaja to do with flying? It's been an interesting journey. I used to fly a fighter plane long back and then moved on after a crash. I didn't have a pothole on the runway which compressed my spine, but I had a technical snag in the aircraft. But I was not fixing potholes then, predominantly working towards making a safer environment of the country. But now for the last 6 years, it's a journey to make our roads safer, and that's the mission PotHoleRaja is into. For the last about 7 years, the research was about how one can make our drive quality a little better. I mean, thanks to a lot of my exposure in being an NRI for a long time, worked with companies like HP as their global VP and traveled around the world and had an opportunity to interact with a lot of amazing people around the world. And when they have visited India and more so Bangalore or some of the places where the IT and the cosmopolitan is very high, they say it's an amazing country and amazing place, people are great. But when it comes to road infrastructure, there's a lot of question mark, as to where are we still in our infrastructure development, right? So, and that was something which was not comfortable, and that's one of the important triggers. Of course, I had another a very close friend who lost his own daughter in a road pothole accident, and I have had my team members broken arms and legs on the way to office with a bumpy ride and things. So that's the genesis of how PotHoleRaja as an organization. It started as a one-man show. Now we are over 5,000 people across India, going across Africa, Southeast Asia, expanding around. We've had a lot of amazing journey in the past, but the slide that you're talking doesn't connect to what I'm saying, right? So that's an important transition that happened about 3 years back, where fixing pothole is actually a post-mortem. There's a road broken and you're fixing it, versus can we make roads that doesn't really get into issues of road maintenance and repair? And that's the journey. We started with using plastic waste as one of the key ingredients to make roads. And I'm sure some of the places which are a little more advanced when it comes to road infra has already explored using alternate materials. But when it comes to plastic as an important main ingredient of the road, that's where grid mats as a technology comes in. We got a patent few months back, and this has been implemented across now multiple places. So this is a 100% recycled plastic waste-based interlocking grid. So what's the focus that we are looking at? Of course, pothole-free roads as our vision is. Can we reduce pollution? We heard about Clarko talking about air quality, and one of the biggest contributor for outdoor roads pollution enabler is bad roads and potholes. You continue to brake every time you have a pothole. You increase your acceleration, the amount of emissions that comes out of the vehicle is high, and thanks to a lot of slow moving traffic and increasing the pollution. Another very important thing is during construction of roads, you also create a lot of pollution. And that's something which is because of the machineries, the kind of infrastructure that has been set, and this is across the world. You go to any place where there's construction happening, you are not comfortable breathing around that place, right? And another very challenging aspect is how do we use the plastic and other industrial waste for making our infrastructure a little more sustainable, and that's where our effort towards is. And one of the key things that you would have seen, within India or outside, the use of concrete as one of the most important part of road building. Earlier, even now about 75-80% is asphalt-based roads, but a transition is towards making a lot of concrete roads. In India, it's called white topping roads. You have a lot of existing roads, and you make another base of layer which is using concrete as another top layer, which is supposed to be a little more longer life. However, that's not the case yet. But yeah, that's a transition world is moving towards making more concrete-based roads. So what we are looking at is, can we make those roads that doesn't get into potholes, that doesn't get into maintenance mode very quickly, and when I'm talking this to the government, they say, I don't want roads that last long, you know about the story, why they don't want it to last long. But when it comes to the requirement, when it comes to the private sector or the roads that really needs a little more longevity, when I say little more, at least about 25, 30 years, we shouldn't worry about that road when it is installed. There are a lot of roads like that in rural environments, but we don't see that often in public roads. So our intent is to make those long-lasting roads, and the picture that you see, this is the grid that we've created. This is a 100% plastic waste-based interlocking grid. So a lot of iteration has happened thanks to the research focus that we've had. Can you imagine this can take a load of a Boeing aircraft? It's a 407-ton capacity that it can take as a load for a square meter. If we fill this with different options that are like asphalt or concrete, or you just fill this with mud and you can drive on it, and we have had 200 tons load vehicle driving around it even when it is not filled. So that's something which has been something that we're working towards, making it more and more rugged, environmentally suitable for all kinds of construction. Another very important use of this is it's portable. You don't need to make this a permanent road all the time. Let's say you want a road for 6 months, you drive there. I'll give you an example. Mining industry, they want temporary roads for access to that place. After the mining is done, they move on, but the infrastructure that they need for that 6 months is extremely heavy duty requirement. So that's one of the important challenge. Another civil challenge that a lot of infrastructure, road infra especially, is having is it creates a huge structure of base layers. So to have a heavy duty traffic movement, you need to create the base right from the soil to the top layer that you see. It will normally be about 500 or 600 mm. It's like almost 1 pound of bread layer on top of soil, which is extremely heavy. And our intent is to reduce that by half at least, but still give more life, more compressive strength, and more ability to handle ongoing traffic across different varieties of loads. Now, if you look at the kind of challenge that you will see a lot of cracks that happens, you will see a lot of joints that happens. When the road is not meant for that kind of heavy traffic, it starts to break off. And as I mentioned, the thickness, the kind of settlement that happens, and when it rains, one of the biggest enemy for road is rains, right? And that happens more so. And the maintenance doesn't happen during monsoon because none of the asphalt or manufacturers can work during monsoon season. Why? Because they don't have the methods to work during rain. And that's one of our key innovations, which is like another product called cold asphalt, where we have a product which is again made out of plastic waste, crumb rubber, and cold processed bitumen. I'm sure you've all heard bitumen. Bitumen is one of the extracts of crude oil. And it's mixed with asphalt with a heated process. That's traditionally the hot mix that you would have seen. But in the work that we've done, we've created a cold processed based bitumen, which even can be put even in a rainwater. When there is a pothole filled with water, we can just pour it and ram it with your car running on it. We fixed a pothole. We've done that over to 20,000 places. In fact, last February and March, we did an all-India tour. We called that Bharatmala. We have few people around. Gautam is here who went along. We have a machine which fixes potholes as we drive. We have a large customized lorries that can actually fix potholes as we drive along, and we fixed around 1,000 across 15,000 kilometers that the team drove. And more so, one of the other challenges when it comes to road construction is cost, and that's about 25% lesser compared to the traditional cost. So that's an important advantage. Our finishing will be like this when it comes to concreting. Yeah, the other side, you will see a hexagonal structure that And what we have done is we have inserted sensors in some of them where you can track varieties of data points to look at what kind of infrastructure that you can assess. You want to know the number of movements that has happened, what is the load that has happened, what is the kind of traffic that is taking, when is a potential breakage or any of those things. As I said, water is another important challenge that we use less water to cure it. We can make temporary roads, conveniences of any other environment that you want. 80% less carbon emission. We reduce about 80% carbon footprint, and that's a very, very big saving when it comes to road infrastructure, right? So that's something which is critical. These are some studies that we have got done through some of our friends for the LCA, life cycle analysis, as to how much of tree offset that you do otherwise when it comes to roads. I mentioned about cost. We have a 25% less cost effectiveness compared to any of them. We have different options. When it comes to asphalt road, this is one of the structures. Bitumen roads, typically that's a lot of requirements for making asphalt roads, or you can generalize it as tar roads. These are landscape roads. That means you can grow grass on it. So we did a work with Maruti Suzuki, where about 5 acres of their finished car goods, finishing place where they were parking was with earlier interlocking, and that was sinking and things. So we replaced it with this, grown grass on it, and then now it's a full-fledged green park with a complete water harvesting environment, but completely sustainable with a circular economy, and they also got carbon credits for that. Right. This is another. This is inside again Maruti Suzuki plant. They wanted paver systems, and it was sinking, so we did a stabilization below that. So applications are very wide. You can make workshop floors. You can make docking yards, car parks, helipads, turfs, and things. So these are some of our customers across India. We are now getting into franchisee with Africa, Indonesia, and some of the Southeast Asian countries. So I do look forward for Europe as one of the important areas for growth, be it sensor technologies, be it infrastructure development, sustainability. I'm sure it is a big thing. A lot of coverage. This is recently done just opposite Sarjapur Road. I'm sure you would have seen that in the last week, where it was a road making the entire swimming pool around the road. So this is the same place, and it still holds well. And we've done it with grid mats opposite to Eco World entrance. This is Gurgaon. Another very interesting application is you would have seen a lot of walkways which are on top of a drain, and the drain cover slab using the same. We have sandwiched this as a slab cover where you can walk on it, very easy to make, self-sustaining, and our intent is to make this as micro entrepreneurship opportunity for local manufacturers. We give them license to create it. We can make them build their own business along with this. Give this as a product, create a circular workaround using local waste, and that's one of the important dimensions. So a lot of interesting cases that we've had. This is the slab that I was talking about, where we can create any kind of infrastructure. And thanks to a lot of companies and institutes who have validated and continue to be part of it, we're starting to work with Indian Institute of Science for a couple of their Ph.D. students to work on IoT sensors to see if they can build on more and more rigor around it. This is the team that I have growing across, thanks to varieties of our advisors. And this is our contact. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm sure there's so much more that we can work towards making our roads and world safer place to build. Thank you.